Good morning. I am making this video to help us complete our guided notes for Chapter 4. So how I will handle this is I will walk through some PowerPoint slides and then I'll help you complete the guided notes which I've inserted into the PowerPoint. Alright, some of this may be a repeat, but I need to make sure I'm covering all three classes where they ended up. Alright, on our notes we start to talk about energy conversion. And we said cells require a continuous energy supply to perform the work of life. Obviously, if we do not have continuous energy, our cells can't do what they need to do and they would die. And the two organelles that act as the power stations are the chloroplasts in plants and the mitochondria. All right, most of the living world runs on this energy provided by photosynthesis, and we are familiar with that. So chloroplasts are unique to photosynthetic cells of plants and algae. If you don't have to do photosynthesis, you won't need chloroplasts. And obviously they are the organelles that perform photosynthesis. This is just a picture, actually under a microscope, of what a chloroplast might look like. We will get into the details of this later in the class. Mitochondria now are the organelles of cellular respiration, which we said is the opposite chemical reaction of photosynthesis. They're found in almost all eukaryotic cells. They produce ATP from the energy of food molecules. ATP is the energy form that our cells can use. Okay? All right. Now, I'll show you a diagram of a mitochondrion in a second. Mitochondrion is singular. Mitochondria is the plural form of the word. There are these two membranes. There's an outer membrane, but then there's an inner membrane also. It has many foldings called cristae. This really increases surface area so that we can maximize the amount of cellular respiration that can take place in that particular mitochondrion. And it has a fluid called the matrix. All right, so here are your notes. We said cells require a continuous energy supply, right, to perform the work of life. And the two organelles that act as cellular power stations are the chloroplasts, right, and the mitochondria. Mitochondria. We said the chloroplasts are unique, right? Unique to the photosynthetic cells of plants and algae. Photosynthetic cells of plants and algae. So if I asked you a question, do animal cells have chloroplasts? The answer would be no. And chloroplasts are the organelles, obviously, that perform photosynthesis. Right? Photosynthesis. Mitochondria, on the other hand, are the organelles that perform cellular respiration. Right? And we're going to get into the details of this later in the class. Mitochondria are found in almost all eukaryotic cells. Let's see if I can spell that right. And they produce ATP from the energy of food molecules. Right? And we said ATP is actually a form of energy that our cells can use. Okay, so make sure you get these down in your notes. If you need to stop the video to make sure you get them down, go ahead. Next, we said the envelope of two membranes, encloses the mitochondria. There's an outer smooth membrane, right? And there's an inner membrane that has numerous infoldings called the cristae. and there is a thick fluid in there called the matrix. Right now, that's what we know. We don't know exactly how it works. We'll learn that later in the course. What I want to show you next is the actual diagram of a mitochondria. Mitochondrion, singular. So you can see an outer membrane, you can see an inner membrane, and you can see all these folds here. That's what's helping us perform as much cellular respiration in a singular mitochondrion as possible. Moving on. Next, we're going to talk about the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is a network of fibers extending through the cytoplasm. I'm going to give you some information on the cytoskeleton, and then we'll kind of look at it in a diagram. But think of the word skeleton, all right, and think of our own skeleton and what that does for us. The cytoskeleton provides mechanical support to the cell and helps the cell maintain its shape. All right, it's like our skeleton helps maintain our shape, right? Now, how does it do it? It has these things called microtubules. These are straight and hollow tubes, hence the name tubules, that guide the movement of organelles and chromosomes. When we get into cell division, we'll talk about how these microtubules will guide the movement of chromosomes. But right now, they guide the movement of organelles. And it provides anchorage and reinforcement for organelles. So let me give you an example. Let's say that we're going to call our lungs, that'll be analogous to an organelle in a cell, and our rib cage will be analogous to this cytoskeleton. So our rib cage actually encloses that organelle and keeps it in place, provides kind of an anchorage for where that organelle belongs, and it protects, our rib cage protects our lungs, right? So it's a reinforcement and protection around the lungs. So think of the cytoskeleton as something that provides anchorage for different organelles in the cell and protects them. Okay? Now, this cytoskeleton is dynamic, all right? That means it's always changing. It helps these cells move, and I'll show you a video of an amoeba in a second. And it also helps our white blood cells move, just as another example, okay? So here is your guided notes. Here are your guided notes. The cytoskeleton is a network of fibers extending through the cytoplasm. All right? Provides mechanical support to the cell and helps the cell maintain its shape. How does it do it? It has these things called microtubules, straight and hollow tubes, makes sense, right? That guide the movement of organelles and chromosomes. If you need to stop the video to make sure you get these notes down, go ahead and do it, all right? Next, we talked about the lungs and the rib cage as an analogy, where the cytoskeleton provides anchorage, right? Keeps things located where they need to be, and reinforcement. Not spelling that very well, am I? Let's see. Reinforcement for many organelles. And it's dynamic. It's ever-changing. Let's see if we can watch this video. Oh, maybe not. What I'm going to do... Oh, here we go. Here is a video of an amoeba moving. So what you'll find is, on the back side, the microtubules will actually break down and allow the back side of the cell to move, and then the front side of the cell will move forward and then form some microtubules there to support it. So it's a pretty interesting concept, pretty impressive. Okay? All right. Here's some pictures. So you can see these are kind of thin hollow tubes that are trying to support the cell and help it maintain its shape. All right, and we saw a video on how it helps the cell move. All right, now we're moving into two additional, call them vocabulary terms we want to understand. Cilia and flagella. Flagella and flagellum is a singular. Flagella propel the cell through there, and I don't like this word, I'm going to say back and forth, whip-like motion. Back and forth, whip-like motion. Cilia also have a back and forth motion. It's a little smoother, but we will look at some pictures of this as well. They have the same basic structure, but cilia are shorter and more numerous. Flagella usually is one. You have one long tail, we'll call it. Cilia could extend from non-moving cells. Our trachea is lined with cilia along it, and it's to catch dust and debris that's coming in with the air in our lungs. So it could extend from non-moving cells. All right, here we see a flagellum, singular, on a human sperm cell. It's a long tail. Think of this as you having flippers on your feet. You kick, it propels you forward, right? So in our case, we would have two legs, but this is one long tail. Cilia, on the other hand, are numerous and shorter, and they're kind of a smoother back and forth motion, but they push this, in this case a protist, push it forward, help it to move. All right? Now let's finish our guided notes here. These are appendages that aid in movement. Okay? We said the flagella propel the cell through back and forth whip-like motion. I'm saying usually one long tail. We'll call it a tail. Where cilia move in a coordinated back and forth motion. All right? Generally shorter and more numerous than flagella. Also, cilia may extend from non-moving cells. And our example there was cilia lines the trachea, which is our windpipe, right? And it's there to catch debris. Windpipe. It's there to catch debris. All right, let's review for a second in our last minute of the video. At the beginning of the unit, we talked about prokaryotic versus eukaryotic, right? Prokaryotic, smaller, simpler, do not have organelles, are found in these big domains, bacteria and archaea. Eukaryotic cells, larger, more complex, have organelles. A big one, right, a big main organelle is our nucleus. Found in protists, plants, fungi, animals, which is the domain Eukarya, right? All right, and then finally, this is just another sketch of our plasma membrane, right? We call it a phospholipid bilayer. Phospholipid bilayer. Guys, bilayer, two. There's two layers of these phospholipids that make up the plasma membrane with these inserted proteins. And the proteins are there to regulate traffic back and forth across the plasma membrane. All right, well, good luck finishing up your notes. I hope this helps.